So I found this cool little app out there called Poladroid that you can get at poladroid.net. It's a freeware app, so just download it and go to town. It's pretty cool. It's a novelty app for sure, and that it does a lot of work for you that you really have no control over. But what you get out of it, you can take into Photoshop and kind of make it your own. And it works just like a real Polaroid, which is cool for anyone who's never seen one before, so you can feel the pain of people who had to use them at one point. But really, after a couple tries, you're going to get over some of it. So to get started, if you have an image that is portrait in landscape, you're going to want to crop that yourself into a square in Photoshop before you get started, and then export that image as a JPEG, which I have here, and then just take that image and drop it onto the app right here. And it's going to start processing it and take about as long as it really does take one of these cameras to spit out a picture. And when it does finally spit it out, you have to take it and shake it to process it. Like I said, this is cool and this is novel, but you're going to get over it in a hurry. So you shake, you shake, you shake. It starts to process a little bit. I'm going to leave it at that and move to one that I've already done just to save us a little bit of time. And this is what you get in the end. It puts the frame around it. It does a little bit of processing around the edges that you'd expect to see on a Polaroid. And in general, it's just kind of cool. So I'm going to right click on it and say show me in the Finder, which is a cool feature because I had no idea where I put it. And I'm going to take the picture and drop it into Photoshop. Once we get into Photoshop, we're going to do some really simple stuff, some very subtle stuff that's just going to kind of give it a little bit of extra organic feel. You can see it looks pretty cool. You can see the textures up on it are pretty consistent. I like it, but we can make it cooler. So start by duplicating your background. You never want to work from the original, so you can always get back if you mess it up. And then on this background layer, I am going to use my burn tool set at about 50% or so to just kind of burn in some color on the edges with a really big soft brush and just give it something a little bit more realistic. I don't think I've ever had a Polaroid that stayed white for very long. And you can do a little here, a lot there. You can make your brush smaller if you want to get kind of a hotter spot on it like that. And I think that looks pretty cool right there. Maybe a little bit more up here in this corner. Now that we kind of have a base to start with, I am going to make a new layer, and on this layer I'm going to put a water stain. And I get these brush sets all over the place. DeviantArt is a really good place to pick them up. And in this case I'm looking for something that looks like somebody set their coffee on it, so I'm going to go with that one. And I'm going to set my foreground color to something kind of brownish, which I think that'll work right there, something kind of coffee colored. And then I'm going to make sure my opacity is set to 100 on my brush. Just kind of drop that in right there, overlapping the image just a little bit as well. And then I'm going to use the opacity on that layer to bring it down a little bit. This just gives me a lot more control than I would have had if I had used 30% opacity on here. And again, really subtle, something kind of like that, where you can barely see it, but it's definitely there and it sets it apart. And then I think I'm going to add one more in here using a more abstract kind of brush, something like this one here. And I'm going to put that one kind of over in this area where there's already a lot going on, and just kind of give it a little detail to look cool. Maybe one up here too. So that's cool. I'm going to add some text to it, so picking a font on here is kind of a big deal. That noise you just heard is how long it took to actually process it. So like I said, you're going to get over that. I'm going to set my foreground color to black, and then I'm going to click here and type in my little message on it. Then just kind of get that where I want it to be. And in this case, I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And then I'm actually going to come in here and just change a couple of the characters so it's not so consistent, it doesn't look so computer generated. Change the space between some of them. Anywhere that you have two characters together, like the L's here in Dolan, find it good to change them up a little bit. So in this case, I'm going to move them in different directions and make one a little smaller than the next one. And all these little things will just give it a little bit something extra so that it doesn't look exactly like a computer created it. And then with that kind of typed up there, a little bit off to the side, I'm going to drop the opacity on it until it blends in just a little bit. And then I'm going to put a mask on it, and I'm going to come back with that same brush that we had before that we used right here for some detail. And with black as my foreground color, the mask is going to just knock off some of this and make it a little less consistent. I'm going to make it really kind of weak where the water stains were and leave some of the other stuff in there so it looks better. There you have it. A quick and easy 5-minute little Photoshop exercise, and you got a picture to post. Hope you liked it.